History for Foos. What's happening, everybody? We're back. Butch Escobar's right here.
What's up, everybody?
And I'm right here. What's in a name? That was one of the bits from Rodney Dangerfield that he's talking about. What's in a name? When he's talking to a manager or his agent. He goes, because Rodney Dangerfield's name was Jack Cohen when he first started doing stand-up comedy. And right. He gave up comedy because he was involved in some crimes when they were looking for Jack Cohen. So
yeah, wasn't
I
he
always
involved
thought he
in,
quit comedy, but no, bro, he was
involved in a government scam.
No, he was involved in that aluminum sidings.
Right.
Because everybody was he was like selling aluminum sidings on the side, like every comic. A lot of comics out there, they do construction, they do any type of skill, but his was aluminum sidings. And what happened was he was not scamming people, but the people above were the scammers, and his name was tarnished. And he had to raise a family, so he quit comedy for a very long time, and then came back as Rodney Dangerfield with a full set. But he was an older man now. But what I read somewhere was that
so he had started though, but he because that's the thing is that people go, one of the things that I remember or I always hear when people who go, oh, I wish I could do comedy, but I feel like I'm too old. And then you hear someone go, well, Rodney Dangerfield didn't start until he was like in his late 40s, but he actually started way earlier than that.
Yeah, and they were looking for him,
so he had to bail.
He had to bail.
So he didn't start in his mid 40s.
He bailed for 20 years or 10.
Yeah, I think it was
10.
And
then he came back. But going back to that bit, like what's in the name? So that bit about Rodney Dangerfield goes, you can't be Jack Cohen. So he changed it to Rodney Dangerfield, which is the character in some movie from a while back or a cartoon. I can't remember. But so the bit goes like this. He's talking to his agent. He goes, so you got to pick a nice name, He goes, but Shakespeare always said, blah, 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 blah. And then his manager said, who are you going to listen to, me or one of your friends? Which is, and that's the way, that's the way Rodney Dangerfield was doing a show about the business.
Right.
About the business. He's letting us know how this business is just with that sentence.
Yeah.
By him telling to his manager what Shakespeare says, and then his manager saying, who are you going to listen to, me or one of your friends? So his manager doesn't know shit about comedy. He don't get it.
Right.
He shouldn't be his manager.
This is the guy that you have to depend on to get you money.
So he's giving us right there. So, because there's a lot of managers out there that try to get you to change your name. Hence, forward, Carlo Mencia, his real name is Ned Holden.
Right.
And Mitzi Shore said that name ain't going to fly. He never tell you, man, it won't fly. So he changed his name. Then when I spoke to Paul Rodriguez, he was thinking about being Pablo Rodriguez, but he thought there was already a Pablo somewhere else.
Okay.
So he went with Paul Rodriguez. So, dude, check this out. I had Daryl Militant on my show, Daryl Middleton, and he's mentioned in the book too. When they're talking about the Chitlin Circuit, he said that that Mitzi Shore told him to change the name to Shecky something.
Who was this?
D Militant.
To Shecky something we already have a Shecky.
Like a derogatory name, like a Shake and Sham or Shake and Bake.
Really?
And he said, nah. So that way, I think he told me that he said on the podcast that he was not a regular. Has anybody you think if
wait a minute, she didn't let him be a regular because he didn't take her advice?
Well, he didn't take the advice, so he responded probably. You know how comedians are. Your first response is always a bad one.
Right, totally. But I mean, I kind of feel like if you don't take someone's advice, it's up to you.
But the owner of the club.
Right, it is the owner of the club.
What if Carlo Mencia would say, nah, what do you know about that?
Right, okay, but...
I'm going to change my name to Charlie Estevez.
That would have worked.
But you think in comedy, you would have got farther in comedy if your name was Butch Anderson?
No.
Or Butch Escobar?
Butch Escobar, but I'm originally, my name's Roberto Escobar. And
You were raised, everyone growing up, nobody called you Robert.
no, nobody called me. My dad was Big Butch. I was Little Butch. And then he realized that name sucked in the 90s because Butch was like these lesbians with short hair and Birkenstocks, and he switched it to Bob. And then everybody kept calling him Bob.
Never saw it like that.
Everybody kept calling me Butch. And then at some point, I didn't like it either. I started making people call me Rob.
So now you just go by Ranch Water.
But now I just go by Ranch Water. But I switched it to Butch because people were like, we don't know who Robert is when I started doing comedy. And then I realized, there's like 2 or 3 Butch Escobars in the whole world. So, yeah, what's in the
But
name?
you think you would have got farther if you would have changed your name and like Anderson? Like a lot of, because a lot of people growing up, like in his comedy, and exactly like in the 20s, like if you were Jewish,
Right.
they were afraid to throw in the long Jewish name, because the Three Stooges were not Mo Howard and Curly Howard. They had an actual true Israeli-born Jewish name.
Right. And they had to
But
change it.
this is like the beginning of white America. You know what I mean? The beginning of, you can say that it's the beginning of America.
Right.
So to be anything other than what the normal Anglo-Saxon name, people are gonna turn around. Well, what's his name? Horowitz. Oh wait. So you're telling me he is not Protestant?
Right. And at that time, that was
Or
important.
you hear a name like, what's his name? Tony Villatova. Oh, so you bring in a Catholic.
Right.
These people knew exactly what you were, what religion you were, based on the last name.
On the last name.
So they were afraid to put maybe somebody down on television.
So do you think this is why people changed their names back then?
Exactly.
Because
I'm pretty
of
sure
racism.
they did.
Not because it flowed off the tongue nicely or because Hollywood liked it better. I mean, there's that whole like Richard Valenzuela, and it was switched to Richard Valens. And I think that for that time was appropriate. I do wonder
But
if
it was sell more albums, because I'm telling you right now, if someone were to look for La Bamba and they would have saw Richard Valenzuela, they would have not go look for it because they thought it would be a Spanish song.
right, that's what I was thinking too. Was that it?
Just like I'm pretty sure, like the people who are my fans in comedy, like the white fans, sometimes they're my fans basically only because they stumbled upon my comedy. Like they stumbled upon it. They didn't search me out. Nobody
like
searched
they
out.
probably heard about you for
Yes.
a long time.
Nobody searched out
Yeah.
Felipe Esparza.
Yes. You know what? I never even.
Nobody's
Man.
gonna search out Felipe Esparza. And if you don't know who I am, and you see my video, my pop-up show up on Netflix, and if you're not Latino, and if you're like 100% white American, you're gonna pass by mine, because you're gonna think it's Spanish right away, because
It's
you
just
never
for
heard
Mexicans,
of
or
me.
at
Just
least-
just based on the
Right.
last name, because I know I would.
Totally. Well, yeah.
Because there's a lot of stand-up comedy that I see, and I see that the Spanish names, and it's not anyone that I grew up in comedy with.
Right.
So right away I think, oh, this guy from Brazil.
Well,
Felipe
there-
Nieto, he's a Spanish comedian.
Totally. And there's the whole like that's one of the
But
things.
the average American is not gonna go seek out only you would have to be appealing. Like that's
Right.
why the long hair, and that's why Netflix advertises in all the genres. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So people could click on your video, which was how people found me the first time. Because when they advertised me on Netflix, it was me and the Fleetwood car chilling
that.
like Breaking Bad.
Right.
And then there's one that looks like it's colorful, it's cartoon, and it looks like it looks like if you glance at it, it looks like I'm part of this kung fu movie,
Okay.
because it's yellow, my red suit is bright, and it looks like something I
I know which one you're
will
talking
watch.
about. Yes, totally.
And then there's another
like
one.
a Kill Bill kind of theme or
Yes,
something.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Then
that's
there's
a
another
great
one.
ad, dude.
And then there's another one that they put up right after you watch a movie like Observing Report or Pineapple Express.
Yes.
And it's the one with me with inside like a little Volkswagen bus
Okay.
with weed.
Yes, I remember that one too.
And then there's another one with me lighting up the microphone like it's gonna be a pipe. Cause see, the reason they do this is because they know that the average person is not gonna go click on that because based on what is Felipe Esparza, because of the name. So they gotta throw it in there through their algorithm, through the people that like this. So if they like Louis C.K., they might throw in Felipe Esparza right next to him only because he was born in Mexico and I'm Mexican.
Right.
And then later on they'll show something like a movie that's kind of like really funny, but like very funny, like Pineapple Express. And then they'll put me in irrelevant comedy.
Irreverent.
What?
Irreverent comedy.
Irreverent comedy.
Yeah.
So that's how I show up with Louis C.K. sometimes, and I show up with all these comics.
Funny. I don't even know what irreverent means. But
I'm there.
I remember seeing
exactly,
you.
bro.
I seen you in my Netflix feed as irreverent comedy, and I was like,
and I saw it, bro. Am I?
I'm irreverent, and babe, I'm irreverent.
So there's always been labels. And this is not if you're listening to this right now on History for Fools, this is not nothing new, because we talked about the comedy scene. Basically we just been talking about white people,
right?
But there was another scene going on with African American comedians, and guess what they called it?
The Chitlin Circuit. They called it the Chitlin Circuit. But what's the
taco circuit?
Yeah, I remember it being called something else.
You know what Willie called it? The Beaner Tour.
That's what I remember it being called, the Beaner Circuit. And I was like, who fucking names this stuff?
Would you get offended if someone called you a Beaner straight up?
It depends
if
on who
it's white and you don't know him.
If they're white and I don't know him, then I'm definitely gonna be like, what the fuck, dude?
Do you think Carlos Mencia, by saying Beaner over and over, he made it for people to be okay to say it?
He made people okay with it.
That's not cool, bro. You say to me, I'll punch your ass. The Chitlin Circuit, I always thought, what, do they sell chitlins?
Right.
But they must have had chitlin soul food.
It must have been the soul food. So the Chitlin Circuit was originally started by these two brothers, the Ferguson brothers. And it was coined the Chitlin Circuit apparently because of the type of food that was served there and stuff like that.
And the name was made by the performers. It wasn't like
it was made by the
a white person, which I thought. But now, if somebody mentions that now, it's because they're trying to make it lower than regular comedy.
I feel like it's less offensive now that I know that.
But nobody calls it that no more, huh?
I don't know if they do. I think I might have heard that, but I can't remember now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, obviously, if someone's out there, go ahead and let us know in the comments, because I almost remember it being called that, but I could be wrong. I do know when I came into comedy that we were called the Beaner Circuit, or that people refer to it as the Beaner Circuit, which is offensive no matter what. But I don't care.
But that's what it was like before. It was all white shows, like in the 80s. They were just regular stand-up shows,
Right.
Because there was a boom. Like, everybody wanted stand-up comedy. But later on, when that shit ended, and yuppies and people from the 80s, they got old and started having kids, they stopped coming to the comedy clubs. But guess who started coming in droves? Black people.
Yeah.
And Mexican people,
right.
Latino people. But for the very first time, you will start seeing more of them in the audience.
Yeah, there was there was definitely an ethnic boom in the late 80s. And that's the thing is I know that people are going to be like, oh, why didn't you guys talk about Latin comedy history? Because there's not much of Latin comedy history as far as here in America, as far as stand-up goes, which was our focus. There's Freddie Prinze Jr. and then kind of going forward is the bulk of it. Whereas black comedy, there was a beginning during the vaudeville era, and there were minstrels and blackface. And I don't know exactly if this is true, but I read somewhere that the blackface came from, and the minstrels actually were early slaves making fun of the slavers. And then the blackface came from the slavers making fun of the slaves making fun of the slavers.
And also because it was a known fact, I guess back then, I don't know why they told these white people that white people have no expression on their face. So they couldn't.
Yeah, that's right.
So they would paint their face black so they could be goofy.
So they could be goofy and weird. And that was during the vaudeville era.
Yeah.
And
black comedians also blackface.
right.
Yes.
Black comedians would do blackface.
They would put the white part too.
And then they would and they would
That's the only way they could perform.
That was the only way they could perform, and then that was the only way they could perform in white circuits because there was a black vaudeville circuit. But it didn't do theaters like the Whiteville vaudevilles. Like the white vaudeville circuit did. They did like old blues houses, like all these like bars that are in the backwoods and stuff like that. So there was two different trajectories of comedy going in different directions. Black comics though didn't really emerge until the 60s with Dick Gregory coming out. And again, when these guys are in these huge theaters and these clubs performing at these like mobster nightclubs, and obviously black performers aren't allowed in these places. So they're performing, Dick Gregory's in this one place called the Encore, and he's doing all this work there, and he's performing just out of these little blues clubs and sharing stages with R&B singers and stuff like that. And then there's this one white comic who's working out of the Playboy Club at the time. And they asked, he had to leave, he had to cancel. They said, do you have someone that could step in for you? He asked Dick Gregory to do it. And this is a very interesting story.
I think it was Shecky Green who couldn't do it.
Was it Shecky Green?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember, but I do know that.
So they had Dick Gregory, and that fool barely had enough money to make it to that gig that he had to run over there.
Well, he took a bus and he got off at the wrong stop.
Yeah.
And then he had to run, but the time that he got off the stop in the snow, and he ran through this like real snowy bad weather,
when they got to there, he was black.
Well, and they tried to get a hold of him to say, hey, don't come in. It's an all-white Southern audience for the next 4 shows. And he doesn't get the call. He shows up. He fucking smashes. That night, he was getting asked to perform for $50 a night, which I was reading that Dick Gregory said he didn't even know there was that much money in the world. But then as soon as he killed those shows, they offered him $250 a night, 7 days a week for the whole year.
Yeah, because he was doing the Playboy and the Playboy clubs were all over America.
Absolutely.
And they all had entertainment, and they were doing stand-up comedy there.
So as we do this thing, I know that there's going to be people going, what about Richard Pryor, and what about Red Fox? And Red Fox actually has a piece of history where he's the first person to ever make a stand-up album. But Dick Gregory is the one who paved the way for all black comedians because he opened up the door. Hugh Hefner also helped facilitated that because Hugh Hefner was the only person allowing black comedians to come in his club and do black comedy.
Yeah, before that, Dick Gregory was the first black comedian to cross over into like a white audience and be accepted. But before that, there was like tons of comedians doing the role, like Miles Mabley, who she had a funny bit about when she did Ed Sullivan, but she was doing stand up for years. And also, what's her name? Aunt Esther from Sanford and Son. Everybody that you would see on Sanford and Son, Aunt Esther, Grady.
Oh yeah,
his two homies. They're all stand-up comedians who are doing the Chitlin Circuit and who are doing the comedy clubs here in California. Red Fox, he was the first black person to open a comedy club in Beverly Hills.
That's right. He did open up the first comedy club.
That's right. And there was other rooms here in California.
Yeah, that's right.
There was Maverick Flats, which was around in those times, and I think it shut down in the 90s. And many people went through there. But Mom Babley had a joke, bro, and all her jokes were like at white people, but in a smart way. but she would dress up like a real old lady, and she was not really an old lady, and she had like fake teeth, and she'd be talking a bit like this. She'd be like, "Oh, police pulled me over there, and they said, why did you cross the red light?" She says, well, I thought that red light was for colored people, because y'all take the green. Everything else is like that. They got a water faucet for blacks. They got a water faucet for whites.
Right.
So I figured we'll take the red light.
Right. Yeah, but those people at the time were not getting to perform in like the Fox theaters and the like, any of that Keith Albee circuit that we were talking about earlier. They had to perform out of like these like blues clubs and these like really, really like rundown places.
The Apollo Theater.
Right. And again, Dick Gregory shows up, and what was that Tonight Show that he did? It wasn't Dick Cavett.
Jack Parr.
It was the Jack Parr show. And so they wanted him on. Jack Parr had requested
fought for him.
He fought for him, and then he gets on. This is one of my favorite stories that I got to read. And so he gets the call to do it, and his wife is listening on the other end, and he's getting offered, and he's like, wow, with Jack Parr, okay, well, no, I don't want to do it. And he hangs up, and she's like, are you fucking crazy? Why would you turn that down? And he's like, because he puts everybody. He's never had any black people, and he's never had any black people on the couch. And if he's gonna have me on, I want to do the couch. And so Jack Parr calls him personally, and he tells Jack Parr, "You've never had any Negroes on your couch, and if you're gonna have me on, I want to come." And he goes, "Of course I'm gonna have you on the couch." So at that time, Jack Parr has him on, and that's a big, big deal for black people at that time. I mean, I can't even imagine that right now.
Well, I had another problem when I was in the Negro nightclub. I'm sitting at the bar, and me and the singer Billy Eckstein is drinking. Now, for 5 years, I am fascinated over Jack Parr. So every night, wherever I was, I had to be back to watch Jack Parr. And after he was over, I'd stand in the mirror until 5 in the morning doing my act, what I was going to do on the Jack Parr show. It's just in me. So now I get married, and I tell my wife, once I get on the Parr show, I still didn't know that a Negro wasn't working white nightclubs. And so I'm sitting at the bar, and I love Jack Parr, man. And the reason I keep saying this, Billy Eckstein, we got to talking, and I said, yeah, man, Jack Parr. And he said, Jack Parr, the mother. And I almost jumped on him, man. I almost jumped. I mean, literally. And he said, man, he ain't never let a Negro sit on the couch. And I did not know that. I said, what do you mean, man? He said, you can come and do your act, but you can't sit on the couch. And I did not. And I'm so twisted and angry at me that for 5 years I've watched that show. And you never came and sit on the couch. I couldn't believe that. Well, I didn't tell my wife. I was embarrassed. So now the front page of New York, of Time magazine, Jack Parr said he reads the story, and he had his people call me Monday morning. Dick, Miss Thompson, Jack Parr's manager, producer, Jack just said, never read anything this hilarious. He'd like for you to be on the show tonight. I said, I don't want to work the show. And I hung up. And now I start crying, and I tell my wife for the first time. Phone rings again. Now it's Jack Parr. Dick, Mr. Parr, I know you think somebody's practical. No, I believe it's you. I don't want to work your show. Why? I said, because the Negroes never sit on the couch. He says, no, you right? Oh, well, come on in. You can sit on the couch. Just like that. So I went in. I sit on the couch. Now, thousands of letters came in saying I didn't know Negro children and white children were the same. It was the first time white America got to hear a black person, not as a performer, but as a human being. They told me that so many people called in to NBC in New York that night that their trunks blew out. Okay, so then I came back like every week for like 22 weeks. It was just incredible. Also, what I didn't know, if you don't sit on the couch, then you don't become a family and your salary don't go up. It was sitting on the couch. And I didn't do that for that. I did it as a principle. And I wasn't trying to prove that. I wasn't trying to force him. I just said, I don't want to work it. I don't want to work it. That's all. And I didn't go and work it and then demand. And he said, come on in.
You know, I didn't know that until I started researching this, that Amos and Nandy's were white in the beginning.
It was two white dudes on the radio making fun of black people.
They were doing like bits and chunks, but they had one. Then later on, when they fought, they hired a black woman to be part of the show, and then people fought it so much that when it went on, and then when people like Amos and Nandy, they didn't care they were white, but when they were about to do the television show, people fought that they better have two black guys playing them.
So originally they were going to have like two white dudes do it?
I don't know about that.
That's fucking crazy though.
But people said they better be blacks.
They have to be black.
So they show the show, again, with two black people. Probably bombs, doesn't make it. Nobody watches it. After that, Amos and Nandy with white people on the radio went on for another 10 years.
No way. On the radio. You're talking about the radio version.
The radio version outlasted the TV version.
Because they wanted to hear the white, well, they wanted...
Nobody watched the black one.
That's crazy, man. That's how racist this country was back then. Holy shit. You know, you can fast forward now. We still have black rooms. I don't know if it's called the Chitlin Circuit anymore, but there's a black circuit.
It's called Fat Tuesdays.
Yeah, it's called Fat Tuesdays. There's you know, Kevin Hart has his own run. There's a couple guys out there that have their own run. Have you ever done black rooms before? Like, I mean, I'm sure you have now, but do you remember the first time ever doing a black room?
Yeah, I did the one over there on 43rd and Crenshaw. I forgot the name of it.
Okay.
And the only other person that had done that room a lot more, that was Mexican besides me, was Willie Barcena. Because when I walked in there, that's the name. They go, oh, you got to hook up with Willie Barcena.
Damn.
But for 43 in Crenshaw, I forgot the name of it. No. What? No, this is like in the 90s. Those places didn't exist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, this is a comedy club that they shot a lot of BETs back then there.
Okay.
Like the one with D.L. Hughley.
Right.
And so it's all black room. And I get there, and the Comedy Act Theater. The Comedy Act. Oh, dude, I remember now the Comedy Act Theater, 43 in Crenshaw. I went there a couple of times.
Okay.
But this time, the first time I went there alone, because I was invited by a comedian named D. Lane.
D Lane?
Yeah, he invited me. So I went there, and there was another friend of mine there named Little something. But he works as a stand-in for Eddie Griffin now. But it was all black, packed on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
Went packed to the gills, and the owner is there. I go up there, bro, and my opening line was, I'm a scared ass motherfucker in here. I didn't even think about saying that when I went on stage.
That's what I was going to ask. Were you nervous?
I was nervous.
Like, definitely nervous.
I was definitely nervous.
Yes.
And that got the crowd rolling. Rolling.
You were just being honest.
Honest. Let me tell you, man. Honest always works
Right.
on comedy.
That's
if
good
you're
advice for
being
comedians.
heckled, if you really tell the heckler how you feel inside, how much that bothers you, how much that hurts you inside, they're gonna get behind you.
The crowd
But you
will
gotta be
definitely get
honest.
behind you. Yes.
Don't be, if you're not the guy that can say "fuck you, asshole" and get the crowd back, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're gonna fail hard, and then when you go home at night, you're gonna lay in bed and go, "That guy must have heckled me."
Right.
But I'm the one who lost the show.
I feel like that's also good advice for bombing, though. Like, I always used to say, if you're bombing, just start talking. Nobody cares. They already don't like you.
I think you shouldn't
Just be
talk.
honest. Just be
you should
honest.
get off the stage. Because nobody wants a guy talking with confidence while they're bombing. Now you're the asshole.
Just get the fuck off.
Get off. It ain't working
Yeah.
tonight. If you cannot come back with one of your great jokes, it's time to bring the hook.
Time to pack it up, bring the hoop, and yank that motherfucker off. Yeah, I remember I got asked to do a black room, and there it was a place in Oakland called Dorsey's Locker, and it's gone now. Rest in peace, Dorsey's Locker. I ended up doing it a bunch of times later and having a good time, but it was notorious. If you bombed, people were gonna talk shit to you, and I was so fucking scared. See, I didn't even go. I lied. Called the booker and
That's
said
a
my
tough
car
place,
broke
bro.
down.
One of those places where the crowd's booing you in your car when you're leaving. Boo!
They're pointing at you as you're driving out.
That's how bad it was.
Boo! Yeah, that's how bad it was. So I didn't want to
There was a comedian we had on a podcast. He's episode 1. Go check it out on the What's Up Food podcast. And he talks about how he bombed so hard that the audience, there was Crips and Bloods there, and they got along, bro, just to boo him. Like, even Crips were saying, boo, dog.
Have you ever
'Cause normally
bombed?
they'll say, cool.
Have you ever bombed in front of a black audience?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, I mean, was it earth shattering or was it fuck it, dude?
It was a bomb, bro.
It was a
It was one of
bomb.
those bombs where, like Mike Epps says, you start thinking about your finances.
You start questioning your role in life.
Your finances, bro. Like, you start thinking about, man, maybe I should have drove here. Because you bomb so hard that it reflects everything in your life. Like maybe I shouldn't have bought that car. Maybe we're not gonna get. You think that everybody's gonna know this, and you're gonna get no more gigs. That's your first fear. But bombing sucks. But you know what? If you never bombed, you're never gonna get good. Because I see comedians now who blew up on podcasts only. Like,
Yes.
they're stand-up comedians who pretty much are funny guests.
They're great podcasts.
They're great
comics,
guests.
Yeah.
They're funny. And the only way they could be funny on stage now is by sitting down on a stool and talking about their life. But they're not being funny.
It's not
All they're
funny.
doing is bringing a 30-minute podcast to a 20-minute set. And it's different, man. Like, to watch these, they don't. It's gotten so bad that these people don't know they're bombing because the audience doesn't know. They've never been to a comedy show where the comedian blew up from a podcast. So they accept it. They don't know that they're bombing. Outside, every one of the comedian that actually got famous for being funny is in a back going,
What the fuck is happening right now? Yeah.
but you gotta bomb, man. Like, if that comedian realizes that he's bombing and then comes back the next day and redeems himself, he's gonna get better. But people don't know they're bombing nowadays.
No, I think that has a lot. It's similar to have you ever been to a YouTuber show where it's just person's just famous for being on YouTube and then they decide to get into comedy or do some sort of form of live entertainment, and then they typically take over our clubs. I know in San Francisco, a couple of guys have showed up and they're not funny. They're not funny at all, but the crowd's enjoying it because they're actually seeing their favorite person. They actually have no idea. And a lot of these people are first time at a comedy show, so they actually don't even know how a comedy show is supposed to go. They're just entertained because their favorite YouTuber's on there.
Yeah, you pay $50 for a 45-minute meet and greet.
Pretty much. And it's just some guy talking about his experiences and with very limited laughter.
The first time I saw something like that was when I was working back in the days in 2004, I guess, 18 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I was working at Mount Vernon Zanies because they had back then they had a Mount Vernon,
Where's Mount Vernon at?
Illinois.
Okay.
They had a Mount Vernon, Illinois Zanies, and they had a Skokie, Illinois Zanies, and they had the original Chicago Zanies, which hosts 90 rooms, 90 people, and it's sad when you don't sell that shit out.
That's a really small club.
Yeah, it's small. It's as small as this podcast.
It really is.
It's exactly the same size as this
From
is.
front to back, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was in there one time, and I remember thinking like, "Wow, this is the famous club." And again, yeah, if you're not backing that club out, then you don't have any business being in comedy.
What was I talking about though before I mentioned that?
Just go. You were going to Mount Vernon.
Oh yeah, so I'm in Mount Vernon, and right next door there was a burrito place called El Famous Burrito, which is pretty good, and it's good. They cut all the burritos in half.
Not even El Famoso, just El
I think it's
Famous?
called El Famoso.
Okay, it is
El Famoso Burrito. It's a chain of burritos in Chicago, and they cut the burritos in half. And you know what it tastes like? If El Famoso Burrito was in LA, they'll be called Alfalbertos.
Alfilberto. Something with Ben.
Do you remember they have Albertos?
Yes.
They have Alberto.
Right.
And they have Filiberto. This place will be Alfalberto. It's that good.
It'd have to be christened with Alberto at the end
Yeah.
of it. That's so funny.
I
dude,
go
they
there,
do.
dude. I go there.
Okay.
Like, and I look at the I used to, as a young comic, I used to like to go to the club in the daytime and see my picture there.
Right.
So I saw my photo, 8x10 Felipe Esparza, tonight, one show. And right next to me was two white actors. And they were going to do a 45-minute meet and greet, question and answer with the audience, and it was sold out. They were going to do it at like around 2 p.m.
Okay.
And there were two soap opera stars
Then
from General Hospital.
that was their whole thing.
That was their whole thing.
That's crazy.
But see, I didn't know that was a thing back then. And I thought, what a genius idea. I would like to meet my favorite soap opera actor if I was a young person.
Totally.
So this place is packed with stay-at-home moms and guys that watch the show. And it's packed. It's like they go there.
I feel like minimal guys. Probably.
They do a 45-minute talking about the General Hospital. And these people are General Hospital fans. They grew up on General Hospital. They probably saw these actors when they were little. Now they're in their 40s.
Right.
And they sit there and they take a picture with everyone.
Every single person.
And they get paid just like a door deal. So back then, I thought that was strange. So now when I see it now with the YouTubers and the TikTokers doing this, I'm telling you, man, nothing is new.
Nothing is new.
Nothing is new. They've been doing this forever. For people know how to make money, they're gonna make money. They're gonna get that cheese. So, getting back to these YouTubers, when I was at the Orlando Improv,
Okay.
there's this famous YouTuber, Instagram star named Twainz, Twainz, and he's a 22-year-old man who's probably 25 now,
Right.
who looks 14.
Okay.
So
Like Martin Rizzo.
younger.
Wow.
Younger, no facial hair. And this guy, Lebanese.
Really?
He shaves everything, bro. So he looks like
Lebanese have hair when they're like 10.
yeah. So he looks like he's a sensation. All his fans are 14-year-old white chicks. 14-year-old teeny boppers.
Ah, okay.
All his fans are tweens.
Just losing their shit.
Losing their
probably.
shit. They're like screaming. Sold out show, $45 to get in. He goes on stage, bro, dressed in like I think like a rabbit suit, and he's riding a little pony on a stick, and everybody's going crazy,
They're losing it.
Right?
Okay.
And it's kids, so the improv is not making no money off drinks. All their kids are with their parents. They don't know who they are.
They have no idea.
Yeah.
How is the improv making money then if they're
Admission.
The admission, because then they jack up the price of the
It's
admission.
$45 to get in.
Oh yeah, they pay tons of money.
And
to see these guys.
this dude, they sold food, blah blah blah. They ate, and then he does like he meets with everybody outside,
Okay.
and they all buy shirts, $40 a t-shirt.
Wow.
He buys he has like teddy bears with him,
Okay.
so he cleans out, bro, merch wise.
Right.
He's killing it.
Killing it. Just
So
killing it.
people always say like people like stand-up comics who are 50 years old or young comics who are like they're like they work really hard to become regulars at the Comedy Store
Sure.
or the Improv or the Ice House.
Right.
They cannot fathom this, that this new thing is happening.
Oh, I've watched comics
and
lose
you
their
start
mind.
lose their mind. But you know
Right.
what?
It's been happening.
It's been happening forever.
That's
bro.
the one thing I don't know. And
Nothing you can do. You can stop it. What you should not do is compete with them.
right.
You shouldn't compete with. Don't consider them as.
But that's not your realm.
It ain't
Yeah,
your realm,
it's
bro.
not your realm.
You stick with what you're doing.
If you wanted to do that, you should have done that. And that's how I feel, because sometimes people are like, don't you get mad when you see YouTubers like who've been only around for like a couple years sell out theaters? And I'm like, no, because I don't fucking do YouTube.
Because
I'd be mad if it was a guy who did his first, like, he was like, it's like his first year in comedy, and there's no other way of knowing him. And then all of a sudden people just start showing up to his open mics. I'd be more pissed at that than I would at some fucking YouTuber.
I'll get more mad if a person started stand-up comedy when they were 14 and now they're 45 and they're still successful.
They're still successful, yeah. They're not on drugs. They're not all fucked up. Yeah, totally.
They're still successful and they're still selling out shows everywhere. And let me tell you right now, there's no one right now that happened to.
None.
There's nobody that started comedy and they're 14 and they're selling out shows.
Let me just...
Because let me tell you right now, everybody pays dues.
Yes.
If you don't pay it now, you'll pay it later. There's people that were in Tropic Thunder, people that were in big movies, lotto ticket.
Oh,
they were in
God.
big movies,
Yes.
selling out shows. But then all that shit ends, and you're back on the road with Felipe Esparza.
You're back doing the little room.
And you're doing the
Yeah.
improv for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, so you started off doing theaters?
Right.
And now you're doing improvs?
Now you got to do this.
Oh, that's
fucking
crazy because I started with the improvs. Now I'm doing theaters.
Right.
But see, it doesn't matter. Sooner or later, hey, it's time to pay your dues, bro.
You got to pay. I think nobody's mental health goes unscathed.
Nobody likes to talk about how really bad it was.
Right. No.
But it's bad.
Okay, so that's the thing, man, is doing all the reading we did and all the research that we did for this first project. Did you find so many correlations to today and now?
Bro, I found so many similarities with the book and other books I read.
Right.
That really related to my life, man. Like
I think especially where you are, it's unique because like me, I'm still just an up and coming comic. I'm still working in like small places and bars, but you're experiencing your fame and doing the Last Comic Standing, all that stuff. And I'm wondering what the correlations are or the similarities are between like comics who were making it back then, all the people that were hanging out at the Carnegie Deli and doing all the big clubs, and what similarities you saw that they were going through that maybe you're going through now.
you're talking about like when at that Carnegie restaurant where like all the headliners were sitting on one section.
Yes.
And then the middle guys were sitting in the middle.
Yes.
And then the other guys were outside, like Lefty and Donnie Brasco from Donnie Brasco outside in the cold.
Yes.
Trying to get a guest spot.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's because that's an interesting. You know what I found too was that
It was like that at the Laugh Factory.
right.
At the Laugh Factory, whenever Jamie would have, Jamie Masada has his little table right there. And mostly young comics or comics that he knows well, like Don Herrera, they'll sit next to him, and talk to him right there at that table.
Right.
But that's the front of the show.
Okay.
Not too many people sit right there, and not too many people want to sit right there
Absolutely.
because you're seen by everybody. It looks like you're kissing Jamie's ass right there.
Right.
But a lot of people still do. Like I could walk in there, and no matter who's sitting there now,
Right.
they'll make I'll sit there. I don't care if Dave Cook is sitting there, or Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle.
You're allowed to sit among.
I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna say what's up,
Right.
and then I'm gonna just leave. And if I get invited to sit down, I'm gonna stay. But upstairs was a different table. Upstairs, Jamie already had 2 wines in him, and Chris D'Elia, and everybody's around him. But Chris D'Elia doesn't drink, so he was just sitting there laughing with him.
Right.
And everybody's drinking, and they're joking around. Dom Herrera is there, and I was Lisa's waitressing, and she's a waitress at the Laugh Factory, my wife, and this is the funniest thing, right? It's like 45 people in the audience, mostly comics hanging out with Jay Masada, and they need a comedian to go up, and Jay Masada the waitress the manager looked at me, drop, they need a comedian. So Jay Masada looks at Tommy Herrera, who's holding a big old wine, full by the way,
Full.
next to Feather Smith, who's hosting. And he goes, Dom, you want to go up? And then Dom looks down there like this at the audience. And he goes, I don't know, man. Are there any showrunners there or promoters or agents or someone that could help my career?
What's in it for me?
So pretty much saying, fuck no, I ain't going up.
Fuck no, I ain't going out.
But that was
Right.
funny the way he said it, bro. Because he made us at the same when he made it sound like a young comic who's there, like me. He would have asked me. I
Would have gone up in a heartbeat.
I would have jumped from where we were standing, bro, down
Right.
go upstairs.
Right.
But by Dom Herrera saying that, he's letting me know and everybody else know that going up right now ain't gonna do shit for your career.
Right.
And
So
you're
why
gonna-
the fuck would I go do that?
Yeah. And he's an old veteran, bro.
Right.
And he's also he threw in a little joke at Jay. I said, what the fuck I would go up there for?
Right.
You know agents down there.
And
but he said it jokingly, though, which is hilarious.
it's like a rank check. Like, oh, you thought I would go up, didn't you? No, I'm not gonna do that. That's a really nuanced thing.
What did he say? Are there any what? Lisa? What did Dom Herrera say? I can hear you. Yeah. He went like this. Yeah. He adjusted. Dom Herrera adjusted his style. Are there any industry?
Is there any industry out there? And at that time, when was this? Where were you at the time? Like, as far as like your career?
I was 2006.
Okay.
I was still I was getting spots Monday through Wednesday only.
So something like that was still really special.
Yeah, I would have went up. That's the only reason I went up. I wasn't a comedian that would like to hang out at comedy club without going up. That's a waste of
Were
time.
you always cognizant of like the social rankings?
Nah, I didn't notice none of that.
I didn't either for the longest time. Honestly, it didn't even really come into focus for me. I mean, I would see the social rankings like in my scene, and I would like, but I didn't really pay attention to them, and I really didn't even notice them exactly what they were until I started doing this research. And then I noticed like, oh, like, you know, there's a certain club in the Bay Area that's like supposedly the big one everybody wants to get into, and if you passed and you're a feature, you get to go in the green room and enjoy just sitting in the green room.
Damn.
But if not, right. And I remember thinking like, this is stupid.
What is the House of Bolton?
Right, this is the stupidest like way like the way they do it is fine. I don't care, but to feel like, oh, I can't wait to get into the green room, to me felt like this is dumb. Like I don't care if I get into the green room or not. Like I don't care. I'm just here to perform. But I did notice those social circles. But I also noticed that as you move around the country, that there's still a lot of the same shit. Racism has kind of receded a bit, but it's still there. There's still people left out of social circles, and you know, and there's still people that I feel like are not included. And I think this is one of the. I'm trying to lead into the Native American stuff here because I think like that's something that is really important that we need to talk about.
Yeah, people people have it like people who live in California or New York, Chicago, Houston, Texas, San Francisco, the Bay Area, Washington. These are pretty hot comedy spots to be performing in.
Right.
But if you don't live near these areas, like you live in 4 hours away from Tucson, or like these comics, like these Native American comedians. There's a comedian that drives at least 5 hours from Minnesota, Black Lake Reservation somewhere, and he drives all the way down to perform 5 hours later at an open mic.
An open mic.
And to do like,
which is typically how many minutes?
yeah, and the whole
5
time,
minutes?
and the whole
7
time
minutes?
he's listening to podcasts, getting pumped up. I've been there, bro, pumped up to perform.
Right, totally.
Like super, super, super excited, man. Like your nipples are hard. You feel like you just want to perform, and I mean, for me, for example, I was not even thinking about sitcoms or getting even paid, hooking up after the show.
That was not at all on your radar when you first started in comedy.
Yeah, that'll come to your radar when you're funny when you have a funny 30 minutes.
Right. Okay.
But when you could just go up on stage, let me do a quick tie for those big titties. You know what I mean? But this comedian drives, dude, all the way to 5-hour drives with the open mic, and he don't even have a moment to hang out afterwards with the comics to chit chat, which is a very important part about stand-up comedy. Like if you're crazy, you're a crazy person, and you have mental problems, but now you're doing stand-up comedy, you're gonna
make friends.
You have friends now
You're gonna make
who are
friends.
also crazy, who also shoplift, who have different vibes than you do. Oh, you gamble so much?
Oh,
My
yeah.
grandma plays bingo every week. You
You're
two
gonna
should
meet
hang
so
out.
many people who do the same shady shit you do.
So this comic is sad because he doesn't have that privilege that we
Right.
have. He don't have time to hang out.
Well, he's
He
got
has
to
to
go
go-
get his kids and
He has to
stuff,
go
right?
home, and he has like 5 adopted kids, and it's crazy. And then there's a female comedian who she started listening to Jeff Foxworthy cassettes that she would buy in the gas station,
Right.
and she's a famous comedian.
And she started, and that's and this is why I feel like it's important to talk about this, because as we're talking about the trajectory of stand-up comedy from vaudeville, and we're talking about even black comedy kind of stems from that origination. And so those two trajectories kind of run alongside each other, but Native American comedy and its trajectory come from an almost different direction.
And I always thought that Native laugh like huh, but they actually laugh, big laughs.
They
Bro,
laugh. They are
I grew
very-
up with Native Americans. My friend, shout out to Robert Enos, Alfred Enos passed away, Rodney Enos, Ronald Enos, Risky Biz, what's up? They're all Enos. And I remember one time I went to the library and I had a bunch of Little Rascals VHS. And he goes, bro, you're going to bring it back? I loaned it to my friend Ronald. He goes, bro, what's up with my fucking Little Rascals? Oh, bro, my dad been watching that shit after work all night. He goes, yeah, he likes it.
Right.
Bro, I would hear it. And I remember, man, throwing jokes with these fools. And I used to get drunk, bro, with the E-Nos, E-N-O-S. Bro, that I used to pass out with them. They used to call me Dancing with Wolves.
Why?
Because I'm the only one that's not native hanging out with them like Kevin Costner
That's so
in Dancing
funny.
with Wolves.
That's hilarious, dude. That's funny.
And they go, and then I will get mad. I go, I'm not dancing with wolves. I'm all loaded. We're the young drunks, regulators. Anyways, so one of the first ever stand-up comics was Charlie Hill,
Yes.
and he was on his first show. His first time he did a stand-up show was on the Richard Pryor variety show.
Okay.
And then he did the Tonight
That's
Show.
right. He did show up on the variety show before he showed up.
He
on
was
the Tonight Show.
young, bro.
He was very young.
He was fucking
Do you
young.
remember? I'm having a hard time remembering like how he first started, where he first started to become like the idea of wanting to become a comedian.
Oh man, he came to Hollywood and he just started doing he came a Comedy Store regular.
Right, and he was the only guy that was like from.
No, there was other ones.
Was there other natives?
When he showed up, he ran into another comedian that was also native, which I personally know, and he has helped me in comedy back in the days. Larry Omaha.
Larry Omaha. I met Larry Omaha.
Yeah, they were buddies, and they would help each other out.
Wait,
Charlie
so-
Hill would not want a gig, and he'll give it to Larry Omaha. And Charlie Hill never, ever, 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 which is sad now, because if Charlie Hill was still alive right now, he would have been the drunk guy on Res Dogs instead of that actor.
He would be a big deal too.
He would be a big deal, man. Out of respect, they would have put him in that.
So
dog.
Larry Omaha was around before
Charlie Hill, same
Hill.
time.
Same time. Okay, that's important to note because I've heard of Larry Omaha,
He's from Omaha, Nebraska.
right? But I've never I didn't know that he had been around that long. That's mad respect, man, because there's not a lot of dudes even now doing native comedy in the mainstream,
Yeah,
and there's a huge native circuit.
yeah.
right now.
Larry Omaha, Charlie Hill, this guy's an Indian comedian, Jerry Bedknob, and Jenny Jones
Okay.
from the Jenny Jones talk show. They would do stand-up comedy together. They
They
would
would
go on
do.
the road.
Jenny Jones did comedy.
Yeah, bro.
And she would do it on the native circuit, or she
No.
She
She would tour with those guys.
Okay.
Those were her crew.
That's pretty dope.
And Jenny Jones did stand-up, and she was the one that blew up faster than those guys.
And they did.
So they would go open for her. They were her friend.
Wow, that's a.
Larry
very
Omaha told me
interesting piece
this. And there was another comedian that, I don't know, he's not native, but he is Latino, and he's Mexican American. He's blind. He used to do a stand-up routine with Irish guy, and they were called O'Brien and Valdez.
O'Brien and Valdez.
And that was like one of the first interracial. Besides, the first time you ever saw a Mexican and a white guy together doing stand up together,
Right.
like Smother Brothers style.
That's pretty dope.
O'Brien and Valdez. Hey, my name is O'Brien, and Valdez is blind, bro.
Okay.
He has a cane. He sees fuzzy things, right? He goes, my name is Brian, and I'm Valdez, and we're O'Brien and Valdez. People ask us, how did you guys meet? Well, it was, and then O'Brien's always loaded. It was a car accident. He goes, we rented a car accident.
That's hilarious.
And then he goes, yeah, we were on vacation. They would do a big closer. Their big closer, O'Brien and Valdez, was, we were on vacation. We were in Hawaii, and here's our photos. And all they do is go like this, click, and the audience light clicks with them, and then they do different poses. And then they're all Valdez looking the wrong way.
Nice. That's funny, dude.
Because there'll be one like this, and he's behind him fucking
Do you
around
know
going like this.
what era, or what time, when was this?
They were the 70s.
This was the 70s.
They were like 75,
this is the
76.
fucking 70s.
Yeah, and before O'Brien and Valdez were a team, Paul Rodriguez told me that it was about O'Brien had a different Latino.
Okay.
It was Valdez and Sensa,
So, it was Valdez and Senza.
something like that, or Sanchez. It was O'Brien and Sanchez or Sensia, something like that.
Was this before Freddie Prinze or after Freddie Prinze?
They're in the same era, bro, but
Same
you know
era.
they were in they didn't blow up,
Right.
but they're still around,
Right.
and they're still around to this day.
That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about too was Latino comedy, because there's not much of a history of American Latino comedy. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we have Tintan and Cantinflas.
When I did the Latino Laugh Festival in 1996, I met a lot of Latino comedians and different ones. And one of the ones that started in the 80s, he was an 80s comic. His name is John Mendoza, and he's half Irish, half
Someone just asked me about him. the
half
other day.
Irish, half Puerto Rican.
Okay.
But he looks Cuban. And I could be mistaken. He could be half Cuban, half Irish, but he looks Cuban, bro. And he talks like this, right? He looks like that private investigator on that television show right now called John Kenda. He looks like him.
Okay.
But dude, I loved this guy growing up. And when I heard his last name, Mendoza, I got the goosebumps. just when I heard Lopez and when I heard Rodriguez.
Right.
You know, I was excited, bro. And so John Mendoza, I saw him on those comedy, the short form comedies that they had in the 90s, the A&E Evening at the Improv, Comedy Central stand up, the Pepsi stand up, all those.
Premium
And
blend.
no, he was too old for Premium Blend.
Okay.
He had a bit like this. He goes, you know what I always thought would be a cool job to be the guy that presses the button on the electric chair. What a job that is, huh? You show up, click. And I guess if he wants to do a little overtime, he'll get a little dimmer. I don't know. People say that you shouldn't kill people, but people always say that you shouldn't put a man to death, you know, because when he did the crime, he didn't know what he was doing. Okay, if he didn't know what he was doing, how did he know? How did he not know we're gonna kill him?
Right.
He could be going into a surprise birthday party, you know. So that's John Mendoza.
Right.
I met him in 1996 at the Latino Laugh Festival, and I had my nipples were hard when I walked up to him, and I made him nervous.
Yeah. You
And
fanboyed
this
him?
guy, fanboy, I want to rub his leg, dog. I want to touch him. But see, I was the only one that was fanboy. Nobody else getting near him.
Yeah.
I didn't see him taking pictures with Paul Rodriguez.
Right.
I didn't see him hanging out with Cheech.
Sure.
I recognized him. I didn't see him hanging out with Greg Giraldo at the tour, at the place. And I went to go see all his shows. He was making fun of the weather, bro. Like, I was outside today. It was like 100 degrees.
So you got a Latin guy in 96
Yeah.
who's not doing Mexicans are crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was tripping out.
Right.
He goes, he didn't even mention you Latino. He goes, man, it was hot out today in San Antonio. I threw a football in the air and it got stuck. So this fool, I saw him I saw him come in the elevator, and this is how you know this guy's a comic, right? He was walking on the elevator eating that Toblerone.
The little chocolates? Yeah.
Ain't no comic I know walking into a Save-Ons or anywhere buying a Toblerone. The only time you eat it is when you open up your little refrigerator in your hotel and that shit pops out.
And there's a Toblerone.
and it pops out and you get charged for it. So you got to eat it.
That's fucking hilarious, dude. Because I don't know how many times I've seen Toblerones in fucking refrigerators, and I'm so tempted to eat them because I have the
It's
munchies.
$8.
Yeah, and I'm like, maybe if I take a triangle off and eat it and put it back in.
You can't, bro, because of the sensor now.
The detector. It always says like 30 seconds or something like that.
Hey, getting off topic, but have you ever replaced a little bottle with bullshit?
Yes. I've gone out and bought like because there was this one hotel that had 24 ounces of Sapporo, which is like one of my favorite beers, and I went and bought a 24 ounces of Bud and tried to switch it out. I don't think I ever got charged for it though.
Me, I drank all the sodas and replaced them
And then with the other sodas.
with a 6-pack I bought for $2. $5 for a Coke. Are you kidding me?
I've had the hotels where they like take the count. The maid comes in and takes the count, and I've taken the bag of Skittles and replaced it like with a bag of Skittles right before I've left, stuff like that.
I always think like this about, because you know, stand-up comedy is a white thing, you know? You know, it wasn't later to like when Eddie Murphy did it. When Eddie Murphy did that movie 48 Hours, which was probably the first time I seen Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
I knew Eddie Murphy from SNL, but I didn't grow up watching SNL because I don't have an older brother.
Right.
That's something, and if you have an older brother or you have friends,
Yeah, our parents weren't watching.
our parents were not watching SNL.
No.
And anybody that tells me like anybody my age tells me I grew up watching SNL with my dad, I'm gonna just tell you you're a liar.
Yeah.
Your
totally.
dad was mad because he wanted to watch soccer and you want to watch this shit.
He wants to see All in the Family.
Yeah. And then so Eddie Murphy blew up fast, okay? Fast. Like Eddie Murphy was like in his 20s when Eddie Murphy was on SNL. And you know who was around when Eddie Murphy blew up on all when Eddie Murphy did his trajectory thing from 5 years to stand up to SNL to movies? You know who was in there in between all this time doing stand up? Jerry Seinfeld.
Really?
Jerry Seinfeld started in
Wait a
1979.
minute. Jerry Seinfeld was doing stand-up.
Jerry Seinfeld started
time.
in 77,
No
78.
fucking way.
So I remember watching Eddie Murphy doing an interview, and they're talking about Seinfeld. He goes, yeah, man, I was a young comic. Everybody in the scene, my scene, wanted to be like Seinfeld because Seinfeld was up there, hilarious.
Okay.
But so he's. Do you know how you have Bill Burr blowing up
Right.
later in his life?
Yeah, a lot of guys like that.
So
Mark Maron.
So Chappelle is the Eddie Murphy of their lifetime.
Totally. Oh, totally. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
And Kevin Hart is the Eddie Murphy of someone else's lifetime.
Of somebody else's lifetime.
But see, when Eddie Murphy blew up, he was in his 20s. And before that, there was no other African-American comedian in the scene that was blowing up that was in their 20s.
Not even Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, he was
Bill
already in his
Cosby.
late 50s.
Dick Gregory was old.
They
when
were
he blew
old.
up. Yeah, they were
Bill
all
Cosby, older man.
Right.
So here comes Eddie Murphy. And for the very first time in comedy history, young African-American men and girls are watching a young black comic for the first time doing his thing. Because some of these kids didn't grow up watching Sammy Davis Jr. when he was young. But here's somebody they could emulate. So that way, man, everybody who saw this, they felt who had a thing that, inside of them that said, I want to be a comedian.
Right.
They saw it when they saw Eddie Murphy. Because I know I did, bro. I
was gonna ask you that. What was your like who were you watching when this all first started for you? Like where were you at?
I saw
Like who made you go, damn, that's what I want to fucking do with my life?
Paul Rodriguez and Eddie Murphy.
Totally.
Because I saw Eddie Murphy in that movie Beverly Hills Cop. And I memorized every funny line that he said. Boom. And then Rodney Dangerfield and Easy Money. And Back to School and Caddyshack,
Right.
And I see Rodney Dangerfield just walking around, just doing his bits.
Right.
He's not really acting.
No, he's just
And Caddyshack was Rodney Dangerfield's first movie.
Was it really?
He was in his late 40s.
No shit, I didn't even know that.
And then after that, they said, "Whoa, let's give him a movie deal," and that's when he got Easy Money and Back to School.
Did you ever watch 48 Hours?
Yeah.
Do you remember watching that? That was like pretty like groundbreaking as well because
I died, bro. You watch that movie now, you go, wow, Nick Nolte was racist. But back then when I saw it, I thought he was racist too.
I mean, he was racist, but it was acceptable. And now it's
back
like,
then
dude, that you couldn't be like that now. But you were reading me some excerpt this morning about Eddie Murphy's scene in the bar in 48 Hours.
Yes. When I was reading the SNL book, and they got to this part about Eddie Murphy when he got chosen to do 48 Hours, and he was teamed up with Nick Nolte. They had to Michael Ovitz, the guy from Disney back then. He's the one that said that they had to rewrite the whole script in Eddie Murphy's style of comedy.
Yes.
So there's a scene, if you watch the scene in 48 Hours where Eddie Murphy puts on that little toothpick and puts on that cowboy hat and walks into that redneck.
Sunglasses on.
Yeah,
too,
walks into that redneck bar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that scene was supposed to be him walking into a black club.
Okay.
And being the man.
Right.
But then they rewrote it to be a fucking
a honky tonk.
A honky tonk bar. So Eddie Murphy was very nervous about his acting in this movie, right? And he was not a great actor in the beginning. I met a guy named David Provo. David Provo is an actor, and he plays Richie Aprile in The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah.
I met him in a movie we were doing called Deported, and him and I were smoking a little one with Joe Diaz, cocksucker. That fool passed out. Anyway, so
Anybody who smokes a Joe Diaz is gonna pass out.
David Bravo told me that he was Eddie Murphy's acting coach in 48 Hours.
Okay.
So every scene that you see, he was there through the whole movie helping him act.
Right.
Helping him act. He told me that when Eddie Murphy was not the first choice for SNL when they were looking for Eddie Murphy.
No.
It was a comedian that used to be a street performer named Tyler Barnett.
Really?
Tyler Barnett used to be a street performer and a comedian in New York during the same time as Eddie. And he would go to Washington Square Park and there'll be like 300 people. And he did really stand-up comedy like in the park.
Okay.
And he would make tons of money, right? And be all loud and damn and killing it, right?
Right.
When he went down to SNL, he couldn't read. He was dyslexic.
Eddie Murphy.
No, Eddie Murphy, Tyler Barnett.
Tyler Barnett. Okay.
He couldn't read the lines.
Okay.
And then he also had like a heroin problem too
Okay, that's kind of
that no one knew about. So when he showed up, he couldn't do it well. Then Eddie Murphy got the call.
That's how Eddie Murphy got it.
Yeah, and Tyler Barnett, he's in a movie called DC Cab. Charlie Barnett, not Tyler Barnett. Tyler Barnett is the comedian
We're
who
gonna
won
have to
the
flash
last.
Tyler over the thing. Or Charlie, I mean.
So Charlie Barnett was the first choice to be on SNL before Eddie Murphy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, so Charlie Barnett was a street performer. And he made DC Cab and he did another movie. When they shot DC Cab, the scenes in LA, another street performer that performs in Venice Beach, I grew up watching when I was 14 years old. I can't think of his name right now. But he's in that movie House Party, and he's in that movie with Charlie with Dave Chappelle. When it's that weed movie, what's it called?
Oh, Half Baked.
He's a drug dealer in that movie.
Oh, the guy that shows up on the bicycle?
No, the one when it's Toe Jam. He's Toe Jam.
He's Toe Jam.
What's his real name? Actor's name? He gets that skill to put on that cracker. Remember?
Toe Jam and Half Baked. House Party, Toe Jam, cracker scene. Toe Jam isn't really a formal medical condition. Okay, that's. Who plays Toe Jam in House Party?
Michael Collier.
Michael Collier.
Yeah. Anyways, so the comedian I'm talking about right now is Michael Collier.
Okay.
Michael Collier used to perform at Venice Beach when I was 14 years old. I saw him. And
outside in the open.
Yeah,
just
100 people there. I was one of the kids. And he said, he had a joke called, how do you make an elephant come? And then he'll put his hand like a hoop and he'll start running back and forward like this.
So he would do this outside in front of families, everything. Yeah. Fucking Venice Beach.
And then he'll be like this. And then he'll be like this. And then he'll do it like racial jokes. And then he'll like, if there's any Mexicans here, he'll go, Mexican, how many tacos you eat today? You know, stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Racial shit. So fool, I was laughing.
Just talking shit.
Everybody was throwing money.
Right.
I don't know. I had no money, but I was standing in the front watching. And I threw a quarter right here because that's all I had.
Right.
And then this black lady said, she grabbed my shoulder, like correcting me.
Right.
Like shoving me, basically.
Yeah.
And then a grown woman, I know her. She said, don't be throwing quarters, boy. And then he looked at her, bitch, this motherfucker Mexican could throw tacos. I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
Money is money, ho. Everybody laughed.
That's fucking great.
Laughed. Then he looked at he touched my pocket. I know you're holding out, motherfucker.
Did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
And did you tell him the
I
story?
talked to him, bro. And then he told me, and then we talked. Then because I wanted to verify a story he made on YouTube, and Michael Collier said that what's his name was making $10,000 a day, street performing at Venice Beach, bro. Charlie Barnett.
No way. $10,000
all
a day.
day.
I need to go to Venice
He'll do
Beach.
like 4 shows.
I'm going to get an Uber to Venice Beach after we're done talking here.
Yeah. So Charlie Barnett, and a lot of famous comedians of that era who are not Eddie Murphy are in DC Cab.
Okay.
So, yeah, man. History for Foos. And you have fun, bro?
I'm having so much fun.
You have fun in the podcast?
Dude, I'm having fun on the podcast. I've had fun learning this.
Me too.
When you first came to me with this idea, I mean, obviously, I'm like,
You said,
fuck
hell
yeah.
no.
But I was like really nervous, man, because I was like, all right, I gotta really like, cause like I loosely know shit. Like I pretend that I know shit, and there's a lot of confidence behind when I say something. But when you go, okay, I want you to do this podcast, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to learn all this stuff, and it was so fun learning all this stuff, and I think it really helped me with my career. Being able to look back and reflect, and doing this podcast has been fun, man. I've really been enjoying this.
Yeah, let's do one more, man.
Okay, let's do one more.
I've had more. I've learned. I love comedy. I love that I'm in it, and I have more respect for the game now.
Right, that's how I feel, man.
I feel it like I feel everybody's struggling. I'm not gonna say like I don't say no more. Oh, fuck that guy, he sucks. You know, bro. I don't know where he came from. That's his way of doing shit.
Right.
I can't judge him. He's making millions now.
Right.
History for Food with ButchEscobar.
Yeah, what's up, man?
We'll see you soon.